Commander Tejo stepped off the transport ship and onto the human space station. His forearms moved nervously as he looked around the strange metal corridors. Behind him, two other alien warriors followed closely. Vextar was a large reptile, creature with green scales and sharp teeth. Quillnex looked like a walking crystal that sparkled in the station's lights. The three aliens were the best warriors in the Galactic Defense Coalition. They had fought in dozens of battles across the galaxy. Today they came to Earth's orbital station for a simple job. They needed to check if humans were strong enough to join their military group. Tejo had read the files about humans. They were a young species from a planet called Earth. The planet seemed dangerous, but humans didn't look very strong. They had only 2 arms, soft skin, and no natural weapons like claws or poison. Most aliens thought humans would be weak fighters. The station's walls were covered with strange pictures. Tejo saw images of humans doing odd things. Some were running for no reason. Others were lifting heavy objects that served no purpose. In one picture, humans were hitting each other but smiling. Vextar growled softly at these confusing images. "Welcome to our station," a voice said behind them. The aliens turned around to see a human female walking toward them. She wore a blue uniform with bright metal pieces on her chest. Her hair was black and tied back neatly. She moved with confidence like a predator. But her face showed no anger. "I am Captain Jiwoo Park," she said with a smile. "I will be your guide today." Tejo studied her carefully. Captain Park looked small compared to him. She had no visible weapons, no armor, and no signs of genetic changes that most warrior species had. Yet something about the way she stood made his survival instincts wake up. "Commander Tejo of the Coalition Fleet," he replied, trying to sound official. "We are here to see your military strength." Captain Park nodded. "Of course, we have prepared a special show for you. You will see how humans train for battle." The word training made Quillnex vibrate with worry. In most alien cultures, training meant sitting in classrooms or using computer programs. Sometimes it meant practicing with fake weapons in safe environments. Real combat training was rare and usually meant someone was in serious trouble. "What kind of training?" Vextar asked, his voice deep and rough. "Physical training," Captain Park said simply. "We call it going to the gym." The aliens looked at each other with confusion. None of their translation devices could explain what a gym meant. The word didn't exist in any galactic language they knew. Captain Park started walking down the corridor. The aliens followed, their feet making different sounds on the metal floor. Tejo's hooves clicked. Vextar's claws scraped. Quillnex made tiny ringing sounds like breaking glass. As they walked, strange smells filled the air. There was a sharp, salty odor that made Tejo's nose wrinkle. Mixed with it was something that smelled like metal and rubber. The smells got stronger as they moved deeper into the station. "That smell," Quillnex said, his crystal body flashing different colors. "What is it?" "Oh, that's just sweat," Captain Park said cheerfully. "It means our people are working hard." Sweat was another word the translators couldn't handle properly. The closest meaning was fear liquid or stress water in most alien languages. This made the warriors even more worried. Were humans torturing their own people? They passed several windows that looked out into space. Earth hung in the distance, a blue and green ball covered in white clouds. It looked peaceful and beautiful. Tejo had trouble believing such a pretty planet could create. "Warriors, your planet looks calm," he said to Captain Park. She laughed, and the sound made all 3 aliens step back. The laugh wasn't mean or scary, but it had something in it that made their fight-or-flight responses activate. "Earth is many things," Captain Park said, still smiling. "But calm isn't one of them. You'll understand soon." They reached a large door marked with symbols the aliens couldn't read. Strange sounds came from behind it. There was rhythmic pounding, like drums in a war ceremony. Heavy breathing could be heard, along with occasional shouts and calls. "This is our main training area," Captain Park explained. "Some of our soldiers are having a light workout session." The door opened with a soft hiss. A wave of warm, humid, Air rushed out, carrying those strange smells even stronger than before. The pounding sounds got louder. Now the aliens could hear metal hitting metal, feet hitting the ground, and humans making effort sounds. Captain Park walked through the door without fear. The 3 alien warriors followed, but much more slowly. They were trained to be brave, but something about this place made their instincts scream warnings. Inside, they saw a huge room filled with the strangest objects they had ever seen. Metal bars of different sizes hung from racks. Round, heavy-looking objects sat in neat rows. Strange machines with moving parts filled one corner. The floor was covered with thick, soft material that bounced slightly when stepped on. But the most shocking thing was the humans. Dozens of them filled the room, and they were all doing things that looked like torture to the alien visitors. Some humans were lying on their backs, pushing heavy metal bars up and down above their chests. Others were pulling themselves up to metal bars using only their arms. A few were running in place on moving machines, sweat pouring down their faces. The most disturbing part was that the humans looked happy. They smiled at each other, talked and laughed while doing these painful-looking activities. Some even seemed to be enjoying themselves. Taeho felt his 4 hearts beating faster. In all his years as a warrior, he had never seen anything like this. These humans were voluntarily putting themselves through what looked like combat conditioning, torture, and they were doing it with joy. Captain Park watched the aliens' reactions with interest. Their faces showed confusion, worry, and growing fear. She had seen this reaction before when other alien species visited Earth's military facilities. "Are you ready to begin the tour?" she asked politely. The 3 alien warriors looked at each other, then back at the room full of humans putting themselves through apparent agony for fun. They realized they might have made a serious mistake about what humans considered normal behavior. Sergeant Dong-Soo Kim walked over to the group with a towel around his neck. Sweat covered his face and arms, but he smiled like he had just finished eating a good meal instead of doing hard work. His muscles were bigger than most aliens had ever seen on any creature his size. "Captain Park," he said, giving a small bow. "Are these our visitors from the Coalition?" "Yes," Captain Park replied. "Sergeant Kim, please show our guests how we do basic physical training." The word basic made Commander Taeho's stomach feel sick. If what he had already seen was basic, what did humans consider advanced? Sergeant Kim nodded and walked toward a section with metal bars and round, heavy objects. The aliens followed, at a safe distance, staying close together like scared children. "This area is for strength training," Sergeant Kim explained. He spoke slowly and clearly like a teacher. "We start new soldiers here on their first day." He pointed to a young human, male who was preparing to exercise. The human looked small and weak compared to Sergeant Kim, but he was still bigger than most alien warriors. "That is Private Min-ho Lee," Sergeant Kim said. "He joined our army last month. Watch what he can do after just a few weeks of training." Private Lee walked up to a metal bar that lay on the ground. Round metal objects hung from both ends of the bar. Each round piece looked heavier than Quillnex's entire crystal body. The young human bent down and grabbed the bar with both hands. His face became serious and focused. He took a deep breath, and then something impossible happened. Private Lee stood up, lifting the incredibly heavy bar off the ground like it was made of air. The metal objects on both ends rose with the bar. His muscles grew bigger as he lifted, and veins appeared on his arms and neck like tiny rivers under his skin. Vexitar made a choking sound. In his species, only the strongest warriors could lift objects half that size. This young, weak human was lifting weight that would challenge a coalition champion. But Private Lee wasn't finished. Instead of putting the bar down, he lowered it slowly to the ground, then lifted it again. And again. And again. His face turned red, and more sweat poured down his skin, but he kept lifting the impossible weight. "How many times will he do this?" Taeho asked, his voice shaking. "Today is a light day," Sergeant Kim said casually. "Probably only 10 times. Only 10 times? The alien commander watched in horror as Private Lee continued his repetitions. Each lift looked like it should be impossible. Each time the bar came, Down, the aliens expected him to collapse or give up, but the human kept going, his face showing strain but also determination. When Private Lee finished his 10th lift, he set the bar down gently and smiled at the watching aliens. He wasn't dying or injured. He looked tired but happy, like someone who had accomplished something good. "Thank you, Private Lee," Sergeant Kim said. "Now show our guests the running area." They moved to a different section of the room where strange machines lined up in rows. The machines looked like moving floors with handles and displays covered in numbers and lights. A human female in military clothes stepped onto one of the machines. She wore a sign that said Corporal So Young Han on her uniform. "Corporal Han will show you our cardio training," Sergeant Kim explained. The machine started moving and the floor beneath Corporal Han's feet began sliding backward. To stay in place, she had to run forward at the same speed. The aliens watched, with growing alarm as the machine got faster and faster. Soon, Corporal Han was running at a speed that most aliens would only use when escaping from deadly predators. Her feet hit the moving floor in a steady rhythm that sounded like rapid weapon fire. Sweat began to appear on her forehead, but her breathing stayed controlled and steady. "This is normal running speed for fitness training," Sergeant Kim said, like he was talking about the weather. "She'll maintain this pace for about 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Quillnex began vibrating so hard that his crystal body made musical sounds. In his species, running at top speed for even 5 minutes would cause total exhaustion. This human was planning to do it 6 times longer, but it got worse. After 10 minutes of running, Corporal Han reached down and picked up 2 heavy metal objects, one in each hand. She continued running at the same impossible speed while holding extra weight. The aliens stared in disbelief. They were watching a female human do something that would kill most galactic species, and she was doing it while carrying additional burden. Her face showed effort, but also something that looked almost like enjoyment. Other humans in the room were doing equally impossible things. Some were hanging from metal bars, pulling their entire body weight up using only their arms. Others were lying on the ground, lifting their bodies up and down in repetitive motions. A few were jumping onto tall platforms over and over again. The most disturbing part was the sounds they made. Instead of screams of pain or calls for help, the humans were encouraging each other. They said things like, "You can do it," and "push harder," and "great job." They were supporting each other through what looked like organized torture. "Why do they do this?" Vextar asked, his reptilian brain struggling to understand. "To stay in good shape," Sergeant Kim answered simply. "Stay in good shape?" The translator couldn't make sense of this phrase either. The closest meaning was, maintain battle readiness. But that didn't explain why they seemed to enjoy it. A new human joined them. He was older than the others, with gray hair and scars on his arms. His muscles were even bigger than Sergeant Kim's, and he moved with the confidence of a veteran warrior. "This is Master Sergeant Jaewon Choi," Captain Park said. "He runs our advanced training programs." Advanced training? Commander Tae-ho felt his 4 hearts skip several beats. Master Sergeant Choi looked at the alien visitors with kind but measuring eyes. "I hear you want to see how we prepare for combat," he said. The aliens looked at each other with panic. What they had already seen was beyond their understanding of what living creatures could endure. The idea of seeing advanced human training made them want to return to their ship immediately. But they were coalition warriors. They had a duty to complete their mission, even if it meant watching humans do more impossible things. "We are ready," Commander Tae-ho lied. Master Sergeant Choi smiled, and somehow that expression was more frightening than any weapon the aliens had ever faced. "Good," he said. "Let me show you what we call real training." The 3 alien visitors followed the humans deeper into the room, not knowing that everything they had seen so far was just the beginning. They were about to learn that human beings had a very different definition of the word exercise than the rest of the galaxy. Captain Park led the alien delegation to another part of the training facility. This room was different from the first one. The floors were covered with thick, soft mats instead of the bouncy material. Strange equipment hung from the walls. Ropes, pads, and objects the aliens couldn't identify. The smell here was stronger. It was the same salty, metallic odor they had noticed before. but mixed with something else. Something that made their survival instincts scream warnings. "This is where we practice combat skills," Captain Park explained. Combat skills. The aliens had been dreading these words. If human basic fitness was beyond their understanding, what would human fighting training look like? In the center of the room, two humans faced each other on a large mat. One wore a sign that said Sergeant Hyunjin Choi. The other was marked as Private Kyung Ho Nam. Both humans were smiling and talking quietly to each other, like friends meeting for lunch. "Sergeant Choi will demonstrate our hand-to-hand combat training," Master Sergeant Jaewon Choi announced. "This is a normal practice session." Normal practice session. Commander Taeho was learning to fear human words like normal, basic, and light. The two humans bowed to each other politely, then raised their hands in fighting positions. What happened next made all three aliens step backward in shock. Sergeant Choi moved faster than the aliens thought possible for a creature without cybernetic enhancements. His fist shot forward toward Private Nam's face with enough force to crush most alien skulls. But Private Nam moved his head just enough to avoid the strike, then responded with his own attack. The two humans began hitting each other with deadly force. Punches flew at speeds that would have been lethal to any coalition species. Kicks snapped out with enough power to break bones. The sound of flesh hitting flesh echoed through the room like weapons fire. But the most terrifying part was that both humans were holding back. The aliens could see it in their movements. These weren't full-power attacks. They were being careful not to kill each other. Private Nam managed to grab Sergeant Choi's arm and threw him to the ground, using a technique that should have been impossible. Sergeant Choi's body hit the mat hard enough to crack stone, but he immediately rolled away and jumped back to his feet, still smiling. "Excellent throw," Sergeant Choi said cheerfully, like he had just received a compliment instead of a potentially fatal attack. Vexitar's reptilian brain couldn't process what he was seeing. In his warrior culture, combat training meant practicing forms and techniques slowly, with safety equipment and strict rules. These humans were actually trying to hurt each other, then praising good technique. The fighting continued for several more minutes. Both humans took hits that would have hospitalized most galactic species. They threw each other to the ground repeatedly. They applied holds and grips that looked like torture techniques. When the demonstration finally ended, both humans were sweating and breathing hard, but they were laughing and discussing what they had done well and what they could improve. "Who wants to try?" Sergeant Choi asked the aliens. The three coalition warriors looked at each other with panic. Try? Did this human actually expect them to participate in this madness? "I will attempt it," Vextar said finally. As the coalition's premier combat specialist, he couldn't show weakness in front of the others. The large reptilian warrior stepped onto the mat. His species were natural fighters with sharp claws, powerful muscles, and thick scales for protection. He had defeated opponents twice his size in official coalition tournaments. Sergeant Choi bowed politely to Vextar, then raised his hands in a fighting stance. The alien did the same, confident in his superior size and natural weapons. The match began, and within seconds, Vextar realized he had made a terrible mistake. The human moved like water, flowing around Vextar's attacks instead of meeting them, head-on. When the alien tried to use his claws, Sergeant Choi simply wasn't there. When Vexitar attempted to use his superior reach, the human somehow got inside his guard. Worse, the human fought in ways that made no sense. He used techniques that weren't in any galactic combat database. He attacked from angles that should have been impossible. He turned Vexitar's own strength against him in ways the reptilian warrior had never experienced. Within 2 minutes, Vexitar found himself on the ground with Sergeant Choi holding him in a position that would have been fatal if the human had chosen to finish the move. The alien couldn't move, couldn't escape, and couldn't understand how he had been defeated so easily. "Good effort," Sergeant Choi said kindly as he helped Vextar back to his feet. "You have excellent natural instincts. With some training, you could become quite skilled." With some training? Vexitar was supposed to be one of the galaxy's best warriors, and this human was talking about training him like a beginner. How is this possible? Vextar asked, his pride badly damaged. Practice, Sergeant Choi answered simply. We start learning to fight when we are children. By the time we join the military, we have been training for most of our lives. Most of their lives. The aliens exchanged horrified glances. These humans had been preparing for combat since childhood. A new human entered the demonstration area. She was smaller than the others, but she moved with the same predatory confidence they had all displayed. Her uniform identified her as Corporal Era Song. Corporal Song will show you our flexibility and pain tolerance training, Master Sergeant Choi announced. Pain tolerance training. The words sent chills through all three alien visitors. Corporal Song lay down on the mat and asked Private Nam to help demonstrate. What followed was something that looked more like torture than training. Private Nam twisted Corporal Song's arm behind her back at an angle that should have broken it. She remained, calm and relaxed, even smiling slightly. He then wrapped his arm around her neck in what was clearly a killing hold. Instead of panicking or surrendering, she calmly worked her way out of the position. The demonstration continued with holds and positions that would have caused immediate surrender or death in most species. Corporal Song allowed herself to be placed in situations where any rational creature would have given up, then found ways to escape or reverse the position. The key is learning to stay calm when you are in danger, she explained to the watching aliens. Pain is just information. Fear is just a chemical reaction. Once you understand this, you can keep thinking clearly even when bad things happen to your body. Pain is just information? Fear is just a chemical reaction? These concepts were completely alien to the visitors' understanding. Pain was supposed to prevent injury. Fear was supposed to keep creatures alive. These humans had somehow trained themselves to ignore their own survival instincts. Commander Taeho was beginning to understand something terrible. Every human they had met had undergone this training. The friendly Captain Park, the cheerful Sergeant Kim, even the young Private Lee. They had all been conditioned to ignore pain and fear. The aliens had thought they were visiting a peaceful species that might need protection. Instead, they had discovered a planet full of creatures who trained for combat from childhood and treated impossible physical challenges as normal daily activities. As the demonstrations continued, one fact became terrifyingly clear. What humans called training would be considered extreme military conditioning by any galactic standard. And every adult human had completed this process. The Coalition warriors were no longer evaluating humanity for membership. They were beginning to realize they might need to warn the galaxy about what they had found on this small blue planet. A new human approached the group. She wore a white coat instead of a military uniform and carried a small device that beeped occasionally. Her name tag read, Dr. Yoon Seo Kim, Sports Medicine. Dr. Kim helps keep our soldiers healthy during training, Captain Park explained. The word healthy confused the alien visitors. Everything they had seen looked designed to cause injury, not prevent it. Dr. Kim smiled at the aliens and activated a holographic display. Images of human anatomy appeared in the air, showing muscles, bones, and organs in detail. I understand. You are curious about human physical capabilities, Dr. Kim said in a gentle voice. Let me explain how our bodies work. She pointed to the muscle system in the hologram. Human muscles grow stronger when they are damaged and rebuilt. The exercises you saw actually create tiny injuries in the muscle tissue. Our bodies repair these injuries and make the muscles bigger and stronger than before. Damage makes them stronger? This concept violated everything the aliens knew about biology. In every other species they had encountered, damage made creatures weaker, not stronger. This process is called adaptation, Dr. Kim continued. Our bodies constantly change to meet the challenges we face. If we lift heavy objects regularly, we grow stronger. If we run long distances, our hearts and lungs improve. If we practice fighting, our reflexes get faster. Commander Taeho's 4 hearts were beating irregularly as he processed this information. Humans didn't just train their bodies evolved during their lifetime to become better weapons. But why do humans need such capabilities? Quillnax asked, his crystal body flickering with worry colors. Dr. Kim's expression became more serious. Because we evolved on Earth. she said simply. She changed the holographic display to show images of Earth's surface. What the aliens saw made them understand why humans were so different from other species. Massive storms covered entire continents with winds that could destroy buildings. Earthquakes split the ground open and swallowed cities. Volcanoes threw molten rock and poisonous gases into the sky. Ocean waves taller than mountains crashed against shores. Earth is what we call an active planet, Dr. Kim explained. Natural disasters happen regularly. To survive, humans had to become very adaptable and tough. She showed more images. Wild animals with claws longer than alien weapons. Plants that could kill with a touch. Insects that carried deadly diseases. Ocean, creatures larger than coalition warships. Everything on our planet was trying to kill us, Dr. Kim said matter-of-factly. So we learned to kill back, or at least survive long enough to reproduce. The aliens stared at the images with growing horror. They were looking at a world where survival required constant vigilance and incredible toughness. No wonder humans seemed so strange. They had evolved in what could only be called a death world. What about your atmosphere? Vextar asked, remembering that something had felt different when they first entered the station. Our air pressure is quite high compared to most habitable worlds, Dr. Kim replied. About twice what most galactic species prefer. Our gravity is also stronger than average. Twice the air pressure? The aliens suddenly realized why they had felt slightly uncomfortable since arriving. The humans were living in conditions that would crush most other species over time. Dr. Kim activated another display showing human biochemistry. We also produce several chemicals that help us survive dangerous situations. Adrenaline increases our strength and speed when we are threatened. Endorphins reduce pain when we are injured. Dopamine makes us feel good when we overcome challenges. To you, aliens learned that human blood could clot quickly to prevent bleeding. Human bones were denser than most species. Human healing was faster than galactic average. Everything about human biology was designed for survival in hostile conditions. We also have something called fight-or-flight response, Dr. Kim continued. When humans sense danger, our bodies automatically prepare for combat or escape. Heart rate increases, muscles tense, senses become sharper, and pain tolerance goes up. This explained something that had been bothering Commander Tejo. Every human they had met seemed slightly alert, like warriors ready for battle. He had assumed it was military training, but now he understood it was basic human biology. What do humans do for fun? Quillnex asked weakly. Dr. Kim smiled and showed new images. Humans climbing tall mountains in freezing weather. Humans diving deep underwater where the pressure would crush most aliens. Humans jumping out of flying vehicles with only thin fabric to save them from death. We call these extreme sports, Dr. Kim said cheerfully. Many humans enjoy activities that simulate survival situations. We find them exciting and rewarding. Extreme sports. The aliens were learning that human ideas of entertainment would be considered military training exercises by most galactic species. Do all humans participate in these activities? Tejo asked. Not all, but many do, Dr. Kim replied. Even humans who prefer quiet activities usually have some form of physical conditioning. We feel uncomfortable if we don't challenge our bodies regularly. The doctor showed them images of human cities. Even in their safest environments, humans had created ways to test themselves. Buildings designed for climbing. Areas set aside for running and jumping. Pools of water for swimming even when no transportation was needed. Exercise is built into our culture, Dr. Kim explained. We believe that a strong body creates a strong mind. Most humans exercise every day, even if they have no military training. Every day. The alien visitors were beginning to understand that what they had seen in the training facility wasn't special military conditioning. It was normal human behavior. Dr. Kim concluded her presentation by showing them medical scans of human soldiers compared to average galactic species. Human bone density was 3 times higher. Human muscle mass was double the norm. Human cardiovascular systems could function at performance levels that would kill most aliens. I hope this helps explain what you have seen today. Dr. Kim said, politely. It explained everything, and that was the problem. The aliens now understood that humans weren't a weak species that needed protection. They were evolutionary weapons created by one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. Every human child grew up on a world that would be classified as a death zone by coalition standards. They played games that would be survival training for other species. They ate food that would be toxic to most aliens. They breathed air that would crush delicate beings over time. By the time humans reached adulthood, they had already survived challenges that would defeat most galactic warriors. Their basic training was just additional conditioning on top of a lifetime of evolutionary warfare. Commander Tejo realized that the Coalition hadn't discovered a new species to protect. They had found a planet full of super soldiers who didn't even know they were super soldiers, because their entire frame of reference was based on surviving in conditions that would kill almost everything else in the galaxy. The three alien warriors looked at each other with new understanding. They weren't evaluating humanity for Coalition membership anymore. They were trying to figure out how to explain to the galaxy that they had found something that changed everything they thought they knew about what was possible for living creatures. Commander Tejo stepped away from the group and activated his emergency communication device. His four hands shook slightly as he sent a priority message to Coalition headquarters. Command, this is Tejo. Change mission status to Priority Alpha. Request immediate council session. We need to discuss Earth membership immediately, but not for the reasons we expected. The reply came back quickly. Tejo, explain your status change request. The commander looked back at the humans who were still demonstrating their basic training with cheerful enthusiasm. How could he explain what he had learned? Command, humanity doesn't need our protection. We need theirs. There was a long silence before the reply came. Explain. Before Tejo could answer, Captain Park approached the group with another human officer. This one wore more decorations on her uniform and moved with even greater confidence than the others. I would like you to meet Staff Sergeant Bo-Ram Young, Captain Park said. She runs our basic military training program for new recruits. Basic military training. The aliens had learned to fear any human sentence that included the word basic. I hear you would like to see a standard training exercise, Staff Sergeant Young said with a smile that somehow looked predatory and friendly at the same time. Standard training exercise. More words that made the alien warriors want to return to their ship immediately. Staff Sergeant Young led them to yet another section of the facility. This area was enormous, filled with obstacles that looked like they belonged on a battlefield rather than in a training area. There were walls to climb, water to cross, and barriers to jump over. Ropes hung from the ceiling. Heavy objects sat in strategic positions. The whole area looked like a war zone designed by someone with a creative imagination and no concern for safety. This is our obstacle course, Staff Sergeant Young explained. Every human soldier must complete this course as part of basic training. Today, we have a mixed unit running through for practice. A group of 20 humans assembled at the starting line. They ranged from young recruits to experienced soldiers. Some looked strong, others looked average by human standards. All of them looked more physically capable than most alien elite forces. Begin! Staff Sergeant Young shouted. What happened next made the alien visitors question everything they thought they knew about physical limitations. The humans moved through the obstacle course like it was their natural environment. They climbed walls that would challenge Coalition special forces. They swung across gaps using only rope and upper body strength. They crawled under barriers, jumped over walls, and carried heavy objects while running. But the most impressive part wasn't their individual capabilities. It was how they worked together. When one human struggled with an obstacle, others helped without being asked. When someone fell behind, the group slowed down to keep everyone together. When a barrier was too high for one person, others lifted them up. Private Min-Ho Lee, the same young human who had lifted impossible weights earlier, was now climbing a rope that reached nearly to the ceiling. He moved hand over hand with smooth efficiency, like climbing was as natural as walking. Corporal So-Young Han, who had run at Predator escape speeds for 30 minutes, was now carrying a heavy pack while jumping from platform to platform. She landed each jump perfectly, then immediately helped the next person across. Sergeant Hyunjin Choi, the combat expert who had defeated Vexitar so easily, was currently crawling through a tunnel barely wide enough for his shoulders while pulling additional weight behind him. "How long does this course take to complete?" Commander Taeho asked weakly. "For basic soldiers, about 25 minutes, Staff Sergeant Young replied. "Elite units can finish in under 15 minutes. 25 minutes? The alien commander estimated that most coalition forces would need several hours to complete this course, if they could complete it at all. The humans finished their run and gathered around Staff Sergeant Young for feedback. They were breathing hard and covered in sweat, but they looked energized rather than exhausted. "Good run today," Staff Sergeant Young told them. "Private Lee, excellent improvement on the rope climb. Corporal Han, nice work helping the team stay together. Sergeant Choi, I want you to try the tunnel sequence faster next time." The humans smiled and nodded, taking the feedback like they were discussing techniques for their hobbies rather than receiving combat training that would challenge Galactic Special Forces. "What you have seen today is our standard military conditioning," Captain Park said to the alien visitors. "This is what every human soldier can do after completing basic training. Every human soldier." The aliens realized they had been watching what humans considered normal military capability, not an elite demonstration. "We haven't shown you our advanced training yet," Captain Park continued conversationally. "We have programs for underwater operations, high-altitude combat, zero-gravity fighting, extreme weather survival, and specialized mission conditioning." Advanced training. The aliens could barely process what they had already seen, and the humans were talking about more difficult programs. Commander Taeho made a decision that would change galactic history. He activated his communicator again and sent another priority message to Coalition Command. "Request emergency session of the full Galactic Council. Recommend immediate fast-track approval of human coalition membership with special status classification. Humans should be designated as Galaxy's primary defense force." The reply came back with obvious confusion. "Taeho, you were sent to evaluate if humans need our protection. What has changed?" The commander looked around the training facility one more time. He watched humans casually performing feats that would be legendary achievements for any other species. He saw creatures who had evolved to thrive in conditions that would kill most galactic life forms, and who considered their Deathworld survival training to be normal daily activity. "Command," he said slowly, "we found something the galaxy has never seen before. We found a species that evolution designed specifically for warfare, and they don't even know it." Captain Park approached the group one final time. "Thank you for visiting our training facility," she said politely. "I hope this has been educational." Educational. The humans had just shown the Coalition's finest warriors that everything they thought they knew about physical limits was wrong. "We would be honored to have Earth join the Coalition," Commander Taeho said formally. "But I must ask, is this truly your basic training level?" Captain Park exchanged glances with the other human officers. They seemed to be having a silent conversation that the aliens couldn't interpret. "Commander," she said finally, "what you saw today was introductory conditioning for new recruits. We didn't want to overwhelm you on your first visit." Introductory conditioning. The alien warriors realized that humans had been showing them the easiest version of their training, and it was still beyond anything the Coalition had ever seen. As the delegation prepared to leave the station, they carried with them knowledge that would reshape galactic civilization. They had discovered a species that had turned survival into an art form, where normal daily life was more challenging than most species' military training. The humans waved goodbye cheerfully, like they had just shared a pleasant afternoon rather than demonstrating capabilities that redefined what was possible for biological life forms. Commander Taeho's final report to the Coalition Council was brief but revolutionary. Humanity approved for immediate membership with designation as primary defense force. Recommend full galactic military restructuring around human training methods. Earth isn't just joining the Coalition. Earth is going to lead it. The three alien warriors returned to their ship with a new understanding of their place in the galaxy. They had come to evaluate humanity's need for protection and discovered, instead, that the rest of the galaxy needed protection, from the kind of challenges that humans considered normal. In space stations and colonies across the galaxy, the word would soon spread about the Deathworld species that called impossible training exercises basic fitness and treated combat conditioning like recreational activities. Humanity had officially joined the galactic community, and nothing would ever be the same.